Okay, now let's look at step 2 of the exemplification pre-writing. So you got your works cited entries from SIRS in the last step. You picked up the works cited entries and you downloaded these articles and sent them to yourself. Now we're ready to start on step 2. And I have an example here, and I've been writing for a long time, so of course my example is going to be very wordy. Yours might not be as long and as wordy as mine is. And we'll look at this another time, maybe in another video. All right, so you're going to have 3 body paragraphs for this essay. They'll be divided into ethos, pathos, and logos. Let's look. You'll also, of course, have an introduction and a conclusion, and I only address the thesis statement on this part of the pre-writing. If you look at SIRS Researcher, they will actually give you some possible thesis statements in the form of questions. So let's look at that. The questions are located above the 6 articles, and all you have to do is change the question into a sentence and use it as your thesis statement. So I could write, like I said before in the other video, the government should not subsidize child care expenses. The government should subsidize child care expenses. Or I could use this sentence here that is already formulated in a declarative sentence. I could use this as my thesis statement. This is one time where I would not count this as plagiarism. Make sure that the sentence as it is written actually fits the argument that you are going to make in this essay, though. Okay? And remember, you are not to use this as a source for your paper, and you are not to use anything below here as a source for your essay. The only thing that is allowed are these 6 articles. And sometimes you can click here and find other articles. We can just click here real quick. This would not be a source right here, not this, because this is just taking you back to that main page I was just on. But you can find some other articles here. You just want to be careful and make sure you pick an article that, number one, you can understand what they're saying, and number two, it fits the argument that you're trying to make. I'm going back to my safe place, which is this little setup right here. Okay, let's look back at our instructions. I am going to copy paste all of this into my Word document. And then I'm just going to fill it in. Okay, so step 1 is my thesis statement. I'm going to say the government should subsidize child care expenses. So I'm going to just grab this thesis statement. Now, I may, after I read my articles, change my mind. The government. I'm going to get all kind of different fonts and font sizes when I'm copy pasting, but I'll worry about that later. It'll get all kind of messy and all right, so there's my thesis statement. I can just delete all of this now that I have it. All right, now I'm ready for my ethos paragraph. And you remember your ethos paragraph, it's like a little annotated bibliography where you're saying, this is my expertise. So you want to pick a topic that you're already kind of an expert in, right? This is your experience with, this is why you're an expert, excuse me. And then you want to also prove why the authors you chose are experts. So let's see how to do that. First of all, I chose childcare. I'm an expert of sorts in childcare. I used to have my own daycare. I took education classes and daycare classes in high school. I also am a teacher and I've taken many education courses. I'm a parent and a grandparent, so I know lots of information about childcare and how much it costs. All right. So, providing government assistance would boost the economy by increasing labor force participation. These articles should back me up more than these articles. However, I have seen good information over here actually back up my idea over here too. So don't discount these articles altogether. So the first step is to click on the very first article. Kate Zinser is my author. So I have to figure out, why is she an expert on this particular topic? Now, just because she's a reporter and a writer, that does not make her an expert. Either she has to have experience with this topic, or she has to speak to people who are experts in this particular area. So let's do that again. Either Kate Zinser is an expert, or she talks to experts and she quotes those experts in her article. That's what makes her credible, not because she's a writer for the Chicago Tribune. One thing I can do is scroll to the bottom of the article and see if there's a bio, and look, there it is. Dr. Kate Zinser is an associate professor of psychology at the University of Illinois at Chicago. She also wrote this book about childhood education. And then Lindsay Percival, who contributed to the article, is an executive director at Learning Bridge Early Learning Center in Evanston. So those are some very good qualifications. So I can trust Kate Zinser as a source, and I can also do a Google search on her. And then I'm going to learn all. She's a assistant professor of psychology. And I can just keep clicking around and reading about her and learn all about her. And I can believe that she is credible. I could also search Lindsay Percival, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's go back to our ethos paragraph. First, I want my personal statement of my own credibility. Why should anybody read anything that I have to say about childcare? So, I'm a parent and grandparent. Provide childcare for my kids. I guess my grown kids, my grown children. So this will be messy. For free, I don't charge anything. I had my own little daycare, my own home daycare. That was a long time ago. So I can go all through. I may not use all of this in my essay, but I did take childcare classes in high school. So on. Okay. And of course, I've read lots of things and all that. So that's my ethos. That's my credibility. Why should you believe me? Now, I have to also address my authors. Some of the articles don't have authors listed, so you'll just be dealing with the credibility of the article itself. But I'm going to look at this author here. I'll just do author number 1 is Kate Zinser. See if I spelled that right. 2 S's. I think it's 2 S's and 1 N. All right. Let's see. She wrote a book. See, I'm not going to go back and forth between my article and my notes, because if I do that, I'm going to plagiarize. Wrote a book on child education. She is a doctor of psychology. She's an associate professor at University of Illinois. course, I'll go back and check my facts. If I have another author, then I'll do the same thing for that author. Okay, so I've got my credibility established for myself and my author. And I can use these little sentence beginners to help craft one of my own biographies of that article, of those authors or the article. And here's just a little, I hope let's just delete this, but this link here will take you to a little slideshow to remind you what ethos, logos, and pathos are. All right. The logos paragraph, that's the facts. Now, you will find elements of ethos and pathos in your logos, and they'll all be mixed up sometimes, but this paragraph should focus on the facts. So, first-hand information is it happened to you. Second-hand information is it affected you some way, even if it didn't happen to you. So you're going to have your actual first-hand experiences here. So I can say how much it cost. And it's cost even more than it did back when my kids were all little. I keep my grandkids for free. Not everybody has somebody who's willing to keep their children for free, so I can't imagine how much it costs to how people manage to pay for childcare when they don't have anybody to help. That didn't like that, but so there's my first-hand experiences, right? And secondhand. So I don't have to identify them as firsthand and secondhand. All right, then I need a quote from my article that shows the facts. So let's dig through here and see if we can find a quote that shows the facts. Every time she admits a new child into the learning center, she knows there's an 80% chance she's taking on $6,000 in annual debt. Not sure what that means, but the massive deficit arises from the mismatch between how Illinois subsidizes early care and education for low-income families and the actual cost. Okay, so Lindsay Percival is a child care provider, and when she brings these kids in, um, the state only pays for a certain amount of their child care. The parents have to pay the rest, and the parents may not be able to afford to pay for the rest. So then she has a deficit in her income of about $300,000 a year if that all happens. So President Joe Biden has a plan to reimburse child care providers for the true cost of care. Okay, that's all fine. Here's a logos, a fact. In Illinois, the average market rate for full-time child care for a 4-year-old child is around $10,000. Is that a year? And is among the least affordable in the country. To obtain even the base level of quality and satisfy licensure requirements, Learning Bridge would need to charge families $11,000 a year. Oh, it says the true cost of providing high quality care, and don't we all want high quality care for our children? Is closer to $20,000 a year for 4-year-old children and $33,000. Wow, that's a lot of money. Let's grab this. I'm going to take this quote from my logos. See? I did copy Control C is what that C was coming from. So I'm just going to delete this part, replace it with my quote, and I'm going to put Zenser's name at the bottom so that I don't forget who said that quote, okay? Now I want some pathos. Now, depending on what class you're in, you may need a certain number of quotes from different articles. Since this video is being made for intermediate English, you only have to have one quote from one article. If you do only use one quote, I suggest you put it in the logos paragraph, because the pathos paragraph is all the emotions. So you can pull all of your emotional ideas from your firsthand or secondhand experiences, and you don't necessarily need a quote. But let's see if we can find a quote for the pathos. I'm just skimming through looking for some emotional language. The passage of Biden's child care plan would dramatically alter the lives of young families with young children in Illinois and finally treat the care and education of our youngest citizens as a public responsibility. Wow, that's really emotional. So I'm going to put that as my quote from my pathos paragraph. And that is Zenser as well. And then I can put my own information here. Let's see. Usually young people are the ones who are having children, right? Sometimes they are not. I would say more frequently they are not financially, or even I don't even think they're really aware. Children cost or how much daycare costs. So these are not grammatically correct sentences, so be aware of that. All right. So I've got my firsthand or secondhand experiences, quote, firsthand or secondhand experiences, quote. I've got my credibility and my author's credibility. I've got my thesis statement. Let's go ahead and format that so it looks nice. I don't know why. I hear somebody driving up in my house, so if you start hearing some noise, that's whoever's here. That's bothering me, y'all. Let's do Times New Roman and 14. I don't know why that's doing that, but I'm just going to leave it like that for the purposes of this video because this video is already long enough. I'm going to hang up before people bust in my house. See y'all in the next video.